Madonna was performing Vogues to 60,000 fans at Madison Square Garden when her tour manager ran on stage mid-song with a phone. One look at his face told her something was catastrophically wrong. "It's Lourdes," he said. "There's been an accident." What Madonna did next, abandoning 60,000 fans mid-performance to rush to the hospital, became one of the most powerful reminders that even global superstars are, first and foremost, mothers. It was March 15th, 2024, and Madonna was in the middle of her celebration tour at Madison Square Garden. The show had been going perfectly. The choreography was flawless, her vocals were strong, and the crowd was electric with energy. She was halfway through Vogue, executing the iconic hand movements that had defined an era, when she noticed something unusual in her peripheral vision. Her tour manager, Marcus, was running onto the stage from the wings, something that never happened during a performance. Marcus wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the stage during the show. His job was backstage coordination, technical management, crisis control. The only reason he would break protocol and run on stage was if something was catastrophically wrong. Madonna kept singing, but her eyes were locked on Marcus as he approached. The look on his face made her blood run cold. In 20 years of working together, she'd never seen him look like that, pale, shaken, urgent. He reached her and held up a phone. His mouth moved, but the music was too loud for the audience to hear what he was saying. But Madonna heard him perfectly through her earpiece. "It's Lourdes. There's been a car accident. She's being rushed to Mount Sinai. It's serious." Madonna stopped singing mid-word. The music continued for a few beats, as her backup singers tried to cover, confused about what was happening. The dancers kept performing, but their movements became uncertain as they realized something was wrong. Madonna stood frozen center stage, staring at the phone in Marcus's hand. 60,000 people were watching, but she didn't see them. She only saw her daughter's face in her mind. For 40 years, Madonna had lived by one unbreakable rule: the show must go on. She'd performed through injuries, through scandals, through personal crises. She'd never walked off stage mid-performance. Never. But in that moment, standing under the lights with 60,000 people watching, she realized that some things were more important than the show. "Stop the music," she said into a microphone. The band, confused, kept playing. "Stop the music," Madonna said, louder, more forcefully. The music died. 60,000 people fell into confused silence. Madonna looked out at the sea of faces staring at her. She was breathing hard, her mind racing, trying to figure out what to say. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I have to go. My daughter, there's been an accident. I have to go to her." She didn't wait for a response. She turned and ran off stage, still wearing her costume, leaving her microphone behind, leaving everything behind except the overwhelming need to get to her daughter. Backstage was chaos. Madonna's security team was already clearing a path to the private exit. A car was waiting, engine running. "How bad is it?" Madonna asked Marcus as they rushed through the backstage corridors. Marcus's hesitation told her everything. "They're taking her into emergency surgery. That's all we know right now." Madonna felt like she couldn't breathe. Emergency surgery. Those words kept repeating in her mind. She'd received the call every parent dreads, the one that makes your world stop, that transforms you from whoever you are professionally into just a parent, terrified and helpless. The drive to Mount Sinai Hospital normally took 15 minutes. With police escort and traffic being cleared, they made it in 8. But those 8 minutes felt like hours. Madonna sat in the back of the SUV clutching her phone, trying to call Lourdes' phone, even though she knew her daughter wouldn't answer. She tried calling Lourdes' boyfriend, her roommate, anyone who might have more information. Nothing, just ringing phones, and the terrible silence of not knowing. Later, Madonna would learn the details. Lourdes had been heading home from a fashion industry event in Manhattan. It was late, around 11 p.m. She'd been in the passenger seat of a friend's car when a drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned them at an intersection. The impact had been on Lourdes' side of the car. She'd been knocked unconscious immediately. The airbags deployed, but the force of the collision had caused serious injuries. Paramedics had arrived within minutes. They'd extracted Lourdes from the wreckage and rushed her to Mount Sinai, the closest trauma center. By the time they got her to the hospital, she was still unconscious, and doctors were preparing for emergency surgery to address internal bleeding. But Madonna didn't know any of this yet. All she knew was that her daughter was hurt, and she needed to get to her. Madonna burst through the emergency room doors, still wearing her stage costume, a black corset, fishnets, high heels. Her stage makeup was smeared from crying. She looked completely out of place in the sterile hospital environment, but she didn't care. "Lourdes Leon," she said to the woman at the admissions desk. "My daughter. She was brought in from a car accident." The woman's eyes widened as she recognized Madonna, but to her credit, she stayed professional. "She's in surgery right now. Let me get someone to take you to the surgical waiting area." Surgery. That word made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. A nurse led Madonna through a maze of corridors to a small private waiting room. "The surgeon will come speak with you as soon as there's any update," she said gently. And then Madonna was alone in a small room with uncomfortable chairs and outdated magazines, wearing a ridiculous stage costume, with absolutely nothing to do except wait and pray and imagine the worst. The next 3 hours were the longest of Madonna's life. She'd faced many challenges in her career: professional setbacks, public scandals, creative failures, but nothing compared to the helpless terror of waiting while her daughter was in surgery. Her phone was exploding with messages, her team, her other children, friends, the media wanting statements. She ignored all of it, except the messages from family. Rocco, her son, was on his way from London. David, Mercy, Stella, and Esteri, her younger children, were being brought to the hospital by their nanny. Madonna's father called from Michigan, his voice shaking with worry. But the only call Madonna wanted to receive was from a doctor telling her that Lourdes was okay. She kept replaying the last conversation she'd had with her daughter. It had been that morning, before Madonna left for sound check. Lourdes had been rushing out to a meeting, and they'd barely spoken. "Love you, Mom. Good luck with the show tonight." Lourdes had called out as she left. "Love you too, baby," Madonna had responded, distracted by her phone. Those might have been the last words she ever said to her daughter. The thought made Madonna physically ill. At 2:47 a.m., a surgeon in blue scrubs walked into the waiting room. Madonna stood up so fast, she almost fell. "Miss Ciccone," the surgeon said, "I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I've been operating on your daughter." "Is she alive?" Madonna asked, because that was the only question that mattered. "Yes," Dr. Mitchell said, and Madonna's legs gave out. She sank back into the chair, sobbing with relief. "She's stable," the doctor continued. "She sustained significant injuries in the accident, a ruptured spleen which we had to remove, some broken ribs, and a concussion. But she's going to be okay. She's incredibly lucky. A few inches different with the impact, and the doctor didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Can I see her? Madonna asked. She's in recovery right now, still sedated. But yes, as soon as she's moved to ICU, you can sit with her. An hour later, Madonna sat beside her daughter's hospital bed, holding Lourdes' hand gently, careful of the IV lines and monitors. Lourdes looked so young, so vulnerable, lying there. At 24, she was usually so confident, so independent. But seeing her in a hospital bed, bruised and bandaged, Madonna was transported back to when Lourdes was a baby, small and helpless, and entirely dependent on her mother's protection. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there," Madonna whispered, even though Lourdes couldn't hear her. "I'm so sorry you were alone when this happened." The guilt was crushing. She'd been on stage performing while her daughter was being cut from a wrecked car. She'd been entertaining 60,000 people while Lourdes had been fighting for her life in an ambulance. What kind of mother was she? What kind of priorities had she set that put performance before presence? When Lourdes finally woke up, groggy and confused from anesthesia, the first face she saw was her mother's. "Mom?" she whispered, her voice raspy. "I'm here, baby," Madonna said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm right here. The show," Lourdes started. "Forget the show," Madonna interrupted. "None of that matters. You're all that matters." Lourdes tried to smile, but it turned into a wince of pain. "You left the show for me?" "Of course I did," Madonna said. "You're my daughter. You'll always be more important than any show, any tour, any career, always." Lourdes squeezed her mother's hand weakly. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. So much, you have no idea how much." The next few days were a blur of hospital routines, medical updates, and recovery milestones. Lourdes' condition improved steadily. The doctors were optimistic about her full recovery. Meanwhile, the media was in a frenzy. Madonna walking off stage, mid-performance, had been captured on thousands of phones. The footage went viral within hours. Speculation ran wild about what had happened. When Madonna's team finally released a statement explaining the situation, the public response was overwhelming. Instead of anger about the cancelled show, there was an outpouring of support and understanding. "She's a mother first," one fan tweeted. "Anyone who's mad about her leaving clearly doesn't have kids. This is why we love Madonna," another wrote. "She's real. She chose her daughter over her career. That's what a real mother does." The video of Madonna stopping mid-song and running off stage became one of the most shared moments in recent concert history. But it wasn't shared as a scandal. It was shared as an example of a mother's love, transcending fame. Lourdes spent 5 days in the hospital before being cleared to go home. Madonna never left her side, except to check on her other children who were being cared for by family. During those 5 days, mother and daughter talked more than they had in years, about life, about choices, about what really matters. "I've spent so much of your life being Madonna," the singer confessed to her daughter, "performing, touring, building a career, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But sitting here, almost losing you, it puts everything in perspective." "You didn't almost lose me," Lourdes said. "I'm fine, I'm here." "But I could have," Madonna said. "And if I had, one of my biggest regrets would have been all the times I chose work over being with you." Lourdes was quiet for a moment. "You're not a perfect mom," she finally said, "but you're my mom, and you ran off stage for me. You chose me. That means everything." Madonna's team offered to reschedule the cancelled Madison Square Garden show. Fans could get refunds or tickets to the makeup date. But Madonna had a different idea. Instead of a makeup show, she arranged for all 60,000 ticket holders to attend a special intimate performance at a smaller venue. An acoustic show, stripped down, no elaborate staging. At that show, she opened with a speech. 3 weeks ago, I ran off this stage because my daughter was hurt. I left you all without explanation, without finishing the show. I'm not apologizing for that choice. I'd make it again in a heartbeat. But I am grateful. Grateful that you understood. Grateful that you supported not just Madonna the performer, but Madonna the mother. She paused, emotional. This show tonight isn't about spectacle or production. It's about music, connection, and what really matters. Thank you for reminding me that you get it. That you understand that some things are more important than entertainment. The crowd gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. The accident changed Madonna in ways she didn't expect. She'd always been driven, ambitious, relentlessly focused on her career. But nearly losing Lourdes shifted something fundamental. She didn't stop performing or creating, but she did start prioritizing differently. She turned down some tour dates to spend more time with her kids. She became more present, more engaged with their daily lives. I used to think success meant never stopping, never slowing down, she said in a later interview. But that night at Madison Square Garden taught me that the real measure of success isn't how many shows you do or how many records you sell. It's whether the people you love know they matter more to you than any of that. The story of Madonna running off stage for her daughter became more than just a viral moment. It became a cultural touchstone about priorities, about what we choose to value, about the difference between who we are professionally and who we are as humans. For 40 years, Madonna had been defined by her work. She was the performer who never stopped, who pushed boundaries, who gave everything to her art. But in one moment of crisis, she showed that she was something more fundamental. A mother. The fans who were at Madison Square Garden that night tell the story proudly. They were there for the show that never finished. They were there when Madonna chose her daughter over them, and they understood that being witness to that choice was more valuable than any performance could have been. Lourdes made a full recovery. Within 3 months, she was back to her normal life, though she and Madonna both agreed she'd never take for granted how fragile life can be. The relationship between mother and daughter deepened through the experience. They'd always loved each other, but the accident reminded them both that love requires presence, not just promises. Madonna continued her career, but with a different energy. She was still brilliant, still provocative, still Madonna, but she was also visibly more present, more grounded, more connected to what mattered beyond the stage. And every time she performs Vogue now, the song she was singing when she got the news about Lourdes, she dedicates it to everyone who understands that being a parent means sometimes you have to run off stage. The show doesn't always have to go on. Sometimes the most important performance is the one you don't give. If this story about family priorities and maternal love moved you, subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share with anyone who understands that some things matter more than career. What would you choose in a similar situation? Let us know in the comments, and ring that notification bell for more powerful stories about the choices that define us.